Hi everyone, thanks for joining me once again on this Saturday morning for some more stories. I've got two for you today, but the good news is if you watched last week, I was sounding really gruff. I had a terrible cold. It's hard to believe you can catch a cold in such a warm climate like Thailand, but you can, and I had it, but thankfully I'm coming to the end of it now, and I feel much better, so hopefully I sound a lot better than I did last week. Terrible last week. Anyway, on to today's two stories. Now, the reason I've only got two is because the first one is very long. It's a great story. It's going to be a good warning to you guys who are coming to Thailand, especially if you're coming here for quite a long visit. And the second one is very short, but again, it's another warning. Some people write to me and they doubt the authenticity of the stories. They'll say things like, I don't believe it, the guy made it up. And the way I look at it, look, you know, I get the stories in, I don't vet them, I kind of just read them. If they sound plausible, I'll read them out. I get silly stories sent in sometimes, which is, it's obvious people made them up. One guy sent me a story that he'd spotted Bigfoot down on Ascot. Well, you know, I'm not going to read that out. And I suppose I'll get lots of comments about people spotting other things now. And, you know, sometimes people will use bots like is it GPT? They'll make a story in there, but it's so obvious the way it's written, it's not a genuine story. So again, the way I look at it is, I'm not really judging these stories, I'm not vetting them. People send them in, and if they sound reasonable, then I'll read them out. But personally, I'd like to believe that the majority of these stories are genuine just because of the effort that people put into them. And you'll see from this first story, it's long, there's a lot of detail, it's very well written, and you'll be totally shocked. You know, for those guys out there who say, well, I can't believe, you know, Thai bar girls can go that far. When you listen to this, you're going to sit back in your seat and say, wow, you know, it's unbelievable. But it's so unbelievable that it, you know, it must be true. So let's just get into it.
สวัสดีค่ะ
I have been subscribed to your channel for several years now, and I really enjoy listening to your Saturday stories sent in by viewers. I had a bad experience that happened to me with bar girls in Pattaya about 5 years ago, and I was thinking about sharing it with you and your viewers for quite a while. I have finally managed to pluck up the courage to send it, and I think it will be a good warning to others who might find themselves in the same situation as I did. First, a little about myself. I'm an Australian, and at the time I was 49 years old. Without getting into too much detail, I basically could work anywhere in the world on a laptop. I worked for a large company back home and was involved in customer services, which was all done online. I'd had a couple of short holidays in Thailand in the past, and I particularly enjoyed the fun and I had while visiting Pattaya. I had a meeting with my manager and I asked if it would be possible that if I moved out to Thailand, I would still be able to keep my job and continue to work. Luckily for me, the company I worked for agreed, as I'd had quite a good record in the past with them, but stipulated I had to be available to take customers' phone calls during the same hours I had been doing in Australia, regardless of the time in Thailand, and I would be monitored. Of course, I agreed, and my story really starts here. I figured that when I made the move to Thailand, I didn't really need to take a lot of stuff over with me and could store most of my belongings in my mother's house. As I really liked Pattaya, I decided that I would take a taxi from Bangkok the following day down to Pattaya, stay in a hotel for a few weeks, and try to find a decent apartment that was reasonably priced while still comfortable. I didn't really want to be in the heart of the action near Beach Road, but on the other hand, I didn't want to be miles away, and after studying maps and riding around on my scooter that I'd rented, I found a reasonable apartment in Nuklua, which is North Pattaya, and was perfect as it was just a 10-minute ride into town, yet nice and quiet when I wanted to stay local. It took me about a week to get the apartment how I wanted it, and I brought my own scooter eventually, and I was now a full-time resident of Pattaya. I'll just explain to anybody who hasn't been here before. Pattaya is like a playground for men. There's nothing you can't do or get, and obviously it's like being dropped in a candy store for a kid. Being new in town, I was like everybody else. I started going out to bars every night, bar hopping, bar finding, and I dated many beautiful women. Some for short time, some for a few days. They were all great fun, and I never really had any problems. By about the 5th or 6th weeks, the relationships I had been having all felt superficial, and it was basically play for pay all the time. Believe it or not, this eventually does become boring, and I was looking for something more fulfilling. At the end of the day, it's not just about bedtime aerobics. It's nice to be able to spend your time with somebody who cares for you as much as you care for them, and we all like a bit of company, right? Not only that, going out to the bars 4 or 5 nights a week basically burns through your budget unless you're super rich. You can't continue bar fining several nights a week. The ladies' drinks bill alone is enough to eat through your budget. At the time, I was earning a decent salary with the company I was working for, but I just felt I was spending too much, and as I said, I was getting bored with pay for play. I decided I would try and find a girlfriend. I tried the dating sites, but most of the replies I got in Pattaya were either freelancers or bar girls looking to make extra money outside of the bars. So not much luck there. I thought to myself, I've got to rewrite my game plan, as the date sites were obviously not working for me. When I was bar hopping, I had stuck up conversations with a few bar girls who were relatively intelligent with good English, and I thought maybe I would try to hook up with the best one I had met. I know a lot of your viewers will now be cringing on what I've just said, especially after all the videos on YouTube that warn guys about dating bar girls. However, I wasn't planning to fall in love or to start a family with a bar girl. I simply wanted to meet a girl who might genuinely enjoy my company, that I could take out for meals, go to the cinema with in her free time, and perhaps strike up a bit of a relationship that we're both happy with. Obviously, I knew there would be some financial transactions. I knew no bar girl comes for free, but I thought I might be able to put together a deal that she was happy with and that suited me and was within my budget if I found a girl that actually I liked, who liked me and enjoyed my company more than going out with a regular 2-week millionaire punter who will fly home in a week or two. I lived in Pattaya full time, which I felt at the time was a bonus to any girl. I thought, right, I'm not going to rush into this. I'll visit the bars that I like where I knew certain girls, and I would evaluate each one before I made up my mind. There is a bar that I used to like to go to in Tree Town. I won't name it here, but a very cute girl called Yip, not her real name, worked in that bar. I would play pool with her and always buy her 1 or 2 ladies' drinks when visiting the bar. For some reason, I'd never actually bar fined Yip because I always went to this bar early with the intention of moving on to other bars before I ended my night. Yip was 29 at the time, came from a village in Isan, and had worked this bar for around a year, or she told me that anyway. Yip was by no means the prettiest girl in Tree Town, but there was something about her I liked. She wasn't bad looking at all. She had long black straight hair, slightly dark skin, and as in the case with most Thai girls, a full set of pearly white teeth. She almost looked like something out of an exotic holiday brochure. My plan was to bar fine her several times, take her out to dinner, play pool in other bars, and just see if I got on with her. I think I'm a good judge of character, and I thought I would be able to tell whether she genuinely liked me or she was just playing the bar girl game. Well, as it happens, we got on extremely well. She laughed a lot at jokes, drank too much, and her English was good. She understood everything I said to her. I made up my mind right there that Yip was a girl I was going to try and develop into some kind of mutual relationship. Yip would hang around with me on her days off, and she would take me on little trips. Just simple stuff like going up to the Big Buddha, or at the time and before the fire, visiting the floating market. It was kind of goofy stuff, but fun still, good fun at the same time. Of course, whenever I wanted to take Yip out of the bar, I would have to pay the bar fine, but this being Pattaya and taking into account that she worked in a beer bar and not a go-go bar, it never did break the bank. Yip actually started to charge me less when she came out of the bar. Originally, I'd had to give her 1,500 baht for her company, but now she was only charging me 1,000 for her company, and this was only when I bar fined her and she would stay all night with me. If I met her in the daytime or on a nights off, I didn't pay for anything other than drinks and meals, and Yip was quite happy with this. One evening, on Yip's day off, I took her to a very nice restaurant in Jumtin, which was open plan and next to the sea. It was a very beautiful setting to have dinner. A slight breeze was coming in from the ocean and you could hear the sea. It was not too busy, enough customers to make it have an atmosphere, but not packed, and the food was delicious. After we had finished eating, I told Yip that I really liked her a lot and I wanted to spend more time with her, but I couldn't keep paying a bar fine because it was getting expensive. I also told her that I was not comfortable with her going off with other customers. I went on to say that I'd grown very attracted to her and I wondered how she felt about me. So I asked her outright, is it just about the money or is there something between us? Yip told me that she came from a very poor family and had come to Pattaya to make money to support her family. She went on to tell me that she didn't really like working in the bars, but she didn't have any formal education and a salary in a factory or similar paid very low. She told me she genuinely enjoyed my company and she'd had a lot of fun hanging around with me. She said most of her customers would come to Pattaya for a few weeks. If she was lucky, she would get bar fined by the same guy several times while he was here on holiday, but obviously they always left with promises to return, but they rarely did. I asked her how she would feel about leaving her bar and coming to live with me as an alternative option to working. Surely it's got to be better than getting drunk every night and going off with strangers. She then told me again that she did genuinely like me. I was a kind person, I treated her well, and I wasn't like her typical customer. She liked the idea that I lived full-time in Pattaya and I wouldn't be leaving, which I said was a bonus for any Pattaya girl. Yip explained to me that as much as she enjoyed my company and liked what I did for her, she couldn't just abandon her family and needed to send them money each month because they had nobody else to rely on who worked. I always think it's strange that it's the girls and not the guys that have to bring in the money to the family in Thailand. Anyway, back to my story. I asked her what it would take to get her out of the bar and to move with me. Yip told me that if she left, she would have to give the Mama-san 30,000 baht to release her from the bar. This apparently was the deal for the girls in this bar. I thought, great deal for the Mama-san, but nobody else. On top of this, Yip wanted 25,000 baht a month, which would give her enough money to send home to support her family. I said that's crazy money. I know there's families living in Isan on 8,000 to 10,000 a month and they get by okay. She just giggled and asked me how much I could pay. I was starting to get annoyed and told her I thought it wasn't just about the money. I thought you actually liked me. She reiterated and said yes, she does, but she has to have some kind of income coming in. I wasn't refusing because I know how Pattaya works. Nothing is free in Pattaya, especially the girls. I just wasn't prepared to pay 25,000 a month. The 30,000 to the Mama-san was a one-off, so as much as it hurt, I know once it was paid, that was it. I explained to Yip that I would pay all her bills. She wouldn't have to pay for food, makeup, I would pay her phone bill, absolutely everything. The cash I gave was just to take care of her family. So with this in mind, we finally agreed on 12,500 baht a month, which I thought was very reasonable and a lot less than I know some guys are paying down there. So basically, I would have to pay the 30,000 to the Mama-san to get her out of the bar, then give her 12,500 baht a month to take care of her family. She promised me faithfully that she would not go off with any customers in the future and would be exclusive to me. We would be boyfriend-girlfriend with the understanding that I was looking after her family. Fair enough. As it transpired, I would have to wait about 10 days before Yip was able to leave the bar to give the Mama-san time to find a suitable replacement. Maybe I didn't have to, but the Mama-san was very nice to me and asked me, so I just agreed. I spoke with the Mama-san and I agreed to pay the 30,000 up front. I would wait to a maximum of 10 days, but I wanted her word that during this grace period, Yip would only accept drinks from customers and would not be able to be bar fined, to which she reluctantly agreed. Other than sitting in Yip's bar from opening time to closing time during the whole 10 days, I would never know if she'd gone off with other customers. I would just have to give her the benefit of the doubt and not think about it. So the magic day finally comes around and Yip is going to leave the bar for good and come and live with me. I was very excited about the prospect of having somebody to share my apartment with who would basically take care of me and I wouldn't have to rely on short-time aerobics for fun. But you know, in Thailand, nothing really goes as planned. On the day of the move, I went to Yip's room and helped her pack her belongings. I was shocked at how little she possessed. The first week that Yip moved into my apartment was basically the honeymoon period. Everything went well and I was happy. Our daily routine didn't change too much. Basically, we'd wake up late, Yip would cook some breakfast, normally Thai food. I would go on my PC and play around answering emails, etc. Yip cleaned the apartment. It was very easy to fit my online work into our daily schedule and it didn't get in the way too much. Early afternoon, we'd normally go out on the scooter and stop somewhere for a nice lunch. Then we'd spend the rest of the day either just walking around Pattaya or we'd go back to the apartment. Towards the end of the second week, Yip told me that as she was now living with me full time, she would like to upgrade my apartment with some nicer stuff. If anybody listening to this story has been shopping in Thailand, you will know white goods and furniture are very cheap compared to your own country. I told Yip that I didn't really see the point in spending good money as the furniture and white goods we had were sufficient. Yip went on to say that we are renting this apartment and everything in it belongs to the apartment owner. She told me she wants a much larger fridge, new sofa and bed, along with new kitchen appliances. Eventually I gave in and thought, what the heck? If I've got to spend 20 to 30,000 baht as a one-off to make her happy, then why not? At least she doesn't have an excuse to leave. Personally, I hate shopping, but as it was my money we were going to spend, of course I was going to be there with Yip to make sure it didn't get out of hand. I called the apartment owner and told her that we didn't want the furniture inside anymore because we were buying our own and I wanted it taken out. She agreed but insisted I would have to pay for the removal guys and the truck. I thought, here we go again. You just can't win when it comes to money. Yes, I agreed. I think it was 3,000 baht, so no big deal. Eventually, everything was delivered and put in place. One thing I like about Thailand is when the furniture is delivered, they actually put it together for you and free of charge. It's not like back home where you end up with a flat packed box and a headache trying to put it together. To say Yip was happy was an understatement. She kept looking at everything and wiping stuff down with a cloth. I must admit it was nice to have all brand new stuff. But in a way, I also thought, what a waste of money. So for the next 2 weeks, all is good in the world. Yip is content and I have no bar girl headaches. Shortly after this time, Yip suddenly turned round out of the blue and told me she'd never been to Koh Lan before. To anybody who doesn't know Pattaya, Koh Lan is an island about 40 minutes away from the mainland. I found this quite difficult to believe, bearing in mind that Yip had worked in a bar and almost every bar girl in Pattaya has been taken to Koh Lan, if not once, multiple times with a holiday boyfriend. When I explained this to Yip, she said no guy had ever taken her there before. So she really wanted to go and see what it was like, as she'd heard the girls in the bar talking about it. I said, well, it will make a nice day out, it's not far and it's cheap to get there and we can have a nice lunch on the island and come back the same day. Yip's reaction to this was very strange. She insisted that she wanted to stay on the island for a couple of nights to see what it was like and explore. She said we could rent a motor scooter and have a look around the island and it wouldn't cost too much money. Looking back on it now, I guess I was completely naive, but there was nothing really to raise any red flags. My girlfriend wanted a couple of nights on an island that she hadn't been to before. Perhaps she had a romantic intentions. Yeah, right. So the journey was planned, the hotel was booked, we had 2 really good nights on Koh Lan. We rode a scooter all over the island, which was a lot of fun, stopping off at good viewpoints. We ate fresh seafood and it didn't cost very much at all. I actually had a great time. All good things must come to an end and eventually we got the boat to the mainland and headed back to my apartment. Everything was normal upon arriving. However, after putting my key into the door, the view in front of me was completely shocking. The apartment was completely empty, and when I say empty, I mean really empty. All the furniture had gone, the kitchen appliances, including the large fridge, was gone. I bought a 65-inch flat screen TV, which was also gone, and the kitchen had been stripped bare. The bed and the sofa, which I purchased, was also gone. Basically, my very nice furnished apartment was now a shell. I immediately turned to Yip and told her we'd been burgled. Yip looked just as shocked as me. The strange thing is that the front door was intact and locked when we arrived. No windows were open, so it seemed to me the only way of entry was with a key. Could this be something to do with the apartment owner, I thought. We immediately headed down to Beach Road Police Station and reported the burglary. A police report was made out and we were given a case number, but nobody came to the apartment to take a look until the next day. The police told Yip that as there were no signs of a break-in, so it was obviously somebody who had a key that had entered the apartment. I was convinced it was something to do with the apartment owner or maybe a tenant that was there before me who'd kept the key. I'm guessing that the owner wouldn't have changed the locks just to save money, but how would they know we'd been gone to Koh Lan for 2 days and wouldn't be around? I was racking my brains, but not getting any answers. I decided we would check into a small hotel for a week, which would give us time to sort things out and perhaps buy some second-hand furniture for the time being. On the fourth day, checked into the hotel, I told Yip I was going to the police station to see if there had been any progress on locating any of the furniture that was stolen from us. Yip was busy on her phone, so I told her I would be going alone and I wouldn't be too long, maybe an hour or so. Anyway, to cut a long story short, the police were no help and they said nothing further could be done for the moment, but they would let me know if there were any developments. Yip had been on her phone almost constantly for the last couple of days, and when I asked her who she was talking to, she just told me that she was just catching up with family members and telling them what happened. So I didn't think any more of it at the time, although it was quite annoying her being on the phone all the time. When I got back to the apartment, Yip wasn't there. I tried to call her, but her mobile went straight to voicemail. I didn't think anything of it at the time. I thought she must have gone out to buy something and she will be back soon. After about an hour, she still hadn't come back and I tried calling her several times. Each time the phone went to voicemail. I was actually getting quite concerned at this point. All sorts of bad things were running through my head, considering what had happened with somebody letting themselves into my apartment. Yes, we're staying in a hotel currently, but you know what can happen. I know this sounds really silly, but I was almost expecting a ransom note to be put under my door. I don't know why, but I suddenly thought to check the drawers and wardrobe where she kept her things. You can guess where this is going by now. And yes, all of her things were missing. The bird had flown the nest and Yip could not be contacted on her mobile phone. Without going into great detail, I found out later what had actually happened with my belongings in the apartment, where all part of an elaborate scam planned out by some of Yip's family. The plan was to get me out of the way for 2 days to keep me away from the apartment, where better than Koh Larn. Once there, Yip was to confirm with her brother on the mainland that we wouldn't be back for 2 days. Apparently, several guys came down from Isan in a rented truck. A key had been left for them under a plant pot. They had let themselves into my apartment, loaded up the truck with my belongings and headed back to Isan. Later, one of the girls in Yip's bar that I know quite well told me the story, which I believe to be true because there was no other explanation. I knew the girl to be fairly honest and we were just friends. I bought her a couple of ladies' drinks, but she knew that was it. There is no other logical explanation for what happened to my things. So I accept this as reality. That and the fact that Yip had suddenly disappeared and was no longer contactable. I went back to the police and reported this to them about what I was told, but they told me unless I have some strong evidence, they cannot follow up. I didn't have a copy of Yip's ID card and I never knew where she came from in Isan. I've basically written the whole thing off as a bad experience. When I calculate everything, I probably lost about 40,000 baht in total, which isn't the end of the world. When white knights in Pattaya tell you that the bar girls are not that bad, believe me, after my experience, I can believe they are capable of anything. Yes, some of them have a very nice caring way about them, but this story proves to you simply you can't trust a bar girl or a go-go dancer in Pattaya. I know I will get comments from people saying that they live with bar girls and they've never had problems, but I don't think I would never have a serious relationship with a bar girl again based on what happened to me. I'm still in Pattaya and have since met another girl who doesn't work in a bar who has a regular job, and we've been dating for about 4 months. But I'll think very, very seriously before letting her move in with me. I think it's a case of once bitten, twice shy. Thanks for reading out my story, Martin. So, wow. What a story. I've actually heard similar stories of this happening, you know, where guys have gone back and not to the degree that the apartment was stripped out, but maybe a girl he was seeing regular was left in the apartment. He'd come back and his laptop had gone or the TV had disappeared or some expensive things. So what can you say? I was going to say be careful, but you can't really. I mean, if you strike up a relationship with a girl and you've been with her for a couple of months and, you know, you can't lock your things away every time you go out the door. There's got to be some trust, hasn't there? Let's go into the second story. This is the final story today, but it's a very, very good warning if you're coming out here for the first time. Hi Peter, my name is Chris. I listen to your channel frequently and wasn't sure if I should share one of my own short stories, but well, what the heck, here goes. I'm a very experienced traveller. I travelled around the world for work and used to stay 6 months to 1 year in one location. I always used to think that it would be very difficult for anyone to scam me, as I know most of the games already. It was on a Friday evening when I caught a flight to Bangkok and took a taxi to Pattaya. After arriving in Pattaya, I checked into my hotel and rushed over to the Lisa Coyote bar near Siam at Siam. After some drinks and chatting with the girls, I went to Soy 7, opposite PJ DJ bar. I cannot recall the name, but I go there often and I buy most of the ladies a drink, as I know most of the girls working in this bar. After enjoying the company of these ladies and feeling a little bit worse for wear because of the alcohol, I decided to head over to Walking Street. I went into a bar that I regularly visit and I ordered my normal drinks, a Heineken and a Sambuca. Now this is where something happened that should have triggered an alarm. The waiter brought me another round of drinks and pointed two girls sitting on another table. "From the two ladies," he said. "Cheers," I said, waving to the girls. I drink my ice-cold Heineken. The mood was getting better and better. It was after midnight already. The two girls came over to my table and suggested that we all go to another bar. I said, why not, and followed them outside. They led me down a side street of Walking Street. Upon arriving at another bar, the girls asked if it would be okay if they could order a bottle of white wine. I said, why not, and just started to enjoy the ambience of the bar. Suddenly, I started to feel very dizzy and was seeing double. I don't know why, but I took my phone out of my pocket and put it next to my ear and said to the girl, I need to make a call and she should guard my wine and cover it. I walked outside quickly and jumped on the first motorbike taxi I saw and said, drive, 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 Siam at Siam. I remember arriving at the hotel dizzy and had trouble stumbling to the elevator. The first thing I remember after arriving back at my hotel was waking up next to my bed, vomit and crap on the floor. Apparently, I had crapped myself while vomiting at the same time. I never felt like this before. It was like a train had hit me and I was sick for several days after that. I still feel stupid but laugh about it now. I'm 100% sure I was drugged that day and escaped from something worse. Please guys, don't let your guard down. It can happen to everybody. I also have nice stories from Pattaya that I might share in the future. Well, he was very, very unlucky. I'm not saying this sort of thing never happens. I've been going down to Pattaya for years and I've left my drink. Nothing's ever happened to me. Maybe I'm just lucky. I don't want this story to kind of scare people who've never been to Pattaya about not going there. Years and years ago, there was different scams come up at different times, but the police, believe it or not, are pretty good at kind of nipping this in the bud, because tourism is their business down there. Without tourists, there wouldn't be a Pattaya, basically. So they want to look after the tourists to a good degree. And I remember about 20 years ago, there was a scam going on where some lady boys were encouraging, especially Asian guys, they were going back to their rooms, and they had a liquid that they'd kind of put around here, and they'd encourage the guy to, lap up the liquid, as it were, trying to think of a polite way to say that. And they would just pass out and they'd wake up the following day or a few hours later with nothing, passport gone, nice watch, money and everything. But to be fair to the boys in brown, they soon nipped it in the bud. And, I've never heard of that sort of thing happening since. So you do have to keep your guard up. Of course you do. But you shouldn't let stories like this scare you. It's fairly safe down there. Right, okay, guys, that's it from me. Enough waffling for today. I'll be back next week with the same. As always, I'll leave as I always do. If you're sitting on a story and you'd like to hear it read out here on Thailand Bound, please send it in to me. I'll make it anonymous, change names, and you too can enjoy listening to your story. That's it for this Saturday. Thanks very much, and I'll see you next week.